Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Now you may remember, I'm just trying to think, probably 3 months ago, something like that, I had a lovely lady who was telling us about the fluoridization of our water here in the UK, in Great Britain, in England, however you want to describe where we are these days. Very difficult. And she went down a storm. People were very fascinated by what was being put into our water. And of course, we've heard lots and lots of different stories about the various things in it. But I'm very pleased to say that Joy Warren, who was my guest from fluoridefreealliance.uk, is back. And I was hoping that she was going to be telling us some joyous news that all the fluoride's been taken out and there's nothing to worry about. But I don't think she's come on to tell us that. Joy, welcome back to the show. It's lovely to have you again.
Thank you for asking me again.
I know last time we had a few audio issues. This time we've got all that solved, but it does seem the fluoride is still being pushed down into the water pipes.
I'm afraid it is, yes, and it's not stopped, and it could increase, unfortunately.
Oh
Uh,
dear.
yeah, public consultation announced on the 25th of March for 1.6 million people in the Northeast.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's not affecting everybody in the country, but this is kind of insidious of how it can creep into all sorts of different places.
Mhm. I believe that it is a policy of the government and the establishment to fluoridate about 40% of England. But let's face it, once they've done that, they may as well move on to the rest of the country. Although
Mm.
we doubt that London will be affected because of the ring main system. They can't isolate any part of London. So
Oh right, okay.
Westminster and Buckingham Palace would be fluoridated as well.
Yes, I remember before you said that they were unlikely to do that because all the important people are there, but there probably comes a point where the useful people are no longer required and they get fluorided too.
Possibly. It's no laughing matter, really.
No,
It's that sort of I sometimes feel that it's a very surreal existence, trying to stop this being rolled out across the country. So the public consultation, rather was like a um, damp squib announcement, in that it appeared in an online newspaper in the region called the Northern Echo, and it appeared at 7 o'clock one evening and was there for 5 hours. And then the next day, the item was archived under a different title.
oh blimey.
Yeah. So it wasn't spotted by national newspapers. It wasn't sent out to the newspapers as you'd normally expect with a press release. It sat in the Department of Health waiting for cruising journalists to go by. Now, the one journalist who saw it did a piece on it, but he picked it up at about 5:45 on that evening. So that's one whole day missed for the consultation. He then did an article on it as opposed to calling it a press release. And when he got to the end of the article, he must have noticed that the link to the public consultation was missing. It had been truncated.
Oh,
The whole paragraph had been cut in half. And not only that, but the live link underneath the press release on the GovWire site wasn't live. You couldn't click on it and go into any document at all. So that's the first thing. So not only were newspapers not told, but one journalist saw it and couldn't actually do the biz, couldn't tell
right.
anybody. And it was only there for the evening, and there were no printed newspapers in the whole region, to tell people about the public consultation. And the other thing is that there are two areas of collateral damage where they're going to get water from Northumbria Water Limited, even though they're not part of the Northeast. And this is the villages south of the Yorkshire border, which receive Northumbrian water, and a small area of about 1,000 people to the northwest of County Durham, which is called Alston and District. And they too receive Northumbrian water from their local Burnhope water treatment works.
Right. We do have a map, don't we, that
Hmm.
we can show. I'll show it, but it's not the most brilliant map for the details. Now let me just grab that from down here. So I don't know why that's suddenly come up. It says, let's put that one up there. So we're looking for those people who are not in the area. We're looking, and for those that are in the area, to be honest,
Mhm.
we're looking at the northeast of England, up on the Yorkshire. Now, I think people can probably just about see my mouse, and that presumably is the border that I'm running it across.
Correct.
And you'll see that below the border, coming into a different county, here are in the green area. These are the villages and areas that will be affected.
Correct.
And although it just doesn't look like very much. Of course, these are towns, whole communities that should not be getting. Well, nobody should be getting the fluoride anyway, but these are the ones that are going to be affected as a result of what they've decided to do.
Yes, there are about 28 villages I've found so far. I might have missed a few.
Right. And now, if I put up the other map, let's have a look. Where is this? Is Google's map, and I can't remember now because Google's map isn't very helpful because it doesn't give us the actual borderline.
Yeah.
But
It's south of Middlesbrough.
south of Middlesbrough, so I just got to go and find Middlesbrough again. We've got Leeds up here.
I think I can just about see it at the top.
Oh, here's Middlesbrough. Here we go. Yeah. So it's not the. So it's sort of down here somewhere. Oh, here's Richmond, and Richmond is just out, isn't it?
Yes.
And it kind of crosses here. So effectively, I mean, it in the scale of the UK. Of course, it's a tiny area, but in this area that we're talking about, it's the point. The fact is, they shouldn't be having it. Well, nobody should be having it really, but it's this sort of bleeding into from one place to another, and that's kind of the concern.
Yes, indeed. And Yorkshire has prevented any moves in its county, and Yorkshire Water definitely has prevented any moves to fluoridate the county. But they can't prevent this because they're not selling the water to those villages.
Right. And is that sort of thing happening? I mean, it's difficult with border lines, isn't it? Because if the pipes are in there and they shunt the borders about, they don't suddenly move the pipes or redirect the water.
They don't. They don't do that. In fact, collateral damage is well accepted in the fluoridating law, legal, legislation. That's yeah, I'm afraid so. They've had to obviously consult Yorkshire County Council, but I suspect nobody has told the affected villages that they're going to be possibly fluoridated. And I'm saying because of the Department of Health are saying will be fluoridated in several places in their consultation document. So it's fait accompli. And we've been
Right.
told by two authorities or authoritative voices that it's a done deal. No matter how hard you try to prove that fluoridation is not good for you, your health, your human rights, whatever, it will still go ahead because there is a determination by public health consultants, the integrated care boards in that area, and by certain shadowy civil servants in the
Mm.
establishment. And I will name one name here. Chris Whitty is clearly implicated in this. They are determined to add fluoride to their drinking water because they think it reduces dental decay in tiny tots who are disadvantaged and who don't clean their teeth.
Right. I suppose that's the official line, but there'll be many of my viewers who will be a little bit sceptical about the benefits of fluoride, whatever you do.
Yes, indeed. In fact, I was looking at the comments boxes on the Telegraph reports from February. There were four of them. Rather strange, just have four in that week talking about fluoridation. They didn't say anything about there being a public consultation in March. But I looked at the comments boxes. They were very well balanced articles as well, which is quite surprising.
Right.
I did a quick tot up of the comments, and out of say 500 comments, and one article attracted 1,100 comments. The majority of the ones I looked at were about 95% against and only 5% in favor. And those 5% were not very well written. It was a case of, oh, it's good for us because I haven't got any dental decay and I've been fluoridated for a long time, that sort of thing. Well,
Right. Very
Anecdotal,
simplistic
anecdotal, yes,
anecdote. Yes.
yeah.
So now I know the other thing that you wanted to make clear, because some people sort of go, but hang on, fluoride is a natural thing, and there are two types of fluoride. Perhaps you could just remind us those
Okay.
types.
In fact, there's a third one which used to be used, which is sodium fluoride, which came from the aluminium smelting industry
Oh God.
back in the 50s. Now they wanted to get rid of their rubbish, so they decided it was a good idea to drip feed it into American drinking water because it would dilute it, wouldn't do anybody any harm, and it would finally get into the sea where they couldn't dump it in the first place.
Right. Oh, I see.
Around about 1960s, they started to run out of sodium fluoride because they ran out of the fluorapatite ore they were using. I think it was cryolite, but I may be wrong on that. So they switched to using a waste product from the phosphate fertilizer industry, which the manufacturers were anxious to get rid of. It costs money to neutralize it, but they get money for selling it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from a large loss, they make a small profit. And this is hexafluorosilicic acid. Now, that's a very euphemistic name. They should really call it hydrofluorosilicic acid because it's hydrogen, fluoride, and silica, and lots of nasties. And we're talking about 25 contaminants in the acid. And that all comes from the ore they use to extract the phosphate and from the water they use to scrub the contaminants out of the factory chimney. And this water is impure water. It's been hanging around in ponds and it's attracted lots and lots of nasty things like plutonium in various stages of decay.
Oh gosh.
Plutonium eventually becomes lead. But the
And,
thing is, the fresher the water is, the more radioactive it is. And that means that
oh,
hexafluorosilicic acid is more radioactive if it's only just been produced using fresh um, water, as it were, fresher water than water's been hanging around for ages and ages. Because in that older water, the decay products become less injurious. Well,
right.
lead is injurious, but okay. So that's what's happening. So now we've got hydrofluorosilicic acid. I can't even say it myself now. Hydrofluorosilicic acid. And it's imported from a country in the near Middle East. And as I say, the government now pays this country, as this company, get it right. I'll try that again. Hold your horses.
Holding it.
The government pays this company for the acid, and it's distributed throughout the English water fluoridation.
So right, okay. So what I hadn't appreciated then was we're not manufacturing it here as an off thing.
Yeah.
We're just going out and saying, oh well, let's buy this stuff in, pay some good money for it, and then we'll throw it into the water system.
Yep. Yep. Unbelievable, right? Because
That,
obviously it eventually gets into our rivers, streams, rivers,
yes,
estuaries,
yes,
and into our sea.
but
But
through us.
yeah, through it. Well, only a small percentage goes through us. Most of it goes into the sewers.
Right, yes. But even so, I mean, nobody, I mean, you struggled to pronounce it. I wouldn't want to have that inside me, affecting me, with all the other stuff that's in the water that we don't seem to be able to get rid of, or that they're shoving in to use as an excuse to get into the sewers and the sea.
Right. Another thing they use to get rid of the impurities in the water treatment works, although it's perhaps being phased out now, but it has been aluminium sulfate. And that's what is known as a flocculant. Good word.
Nice word, flocculent.
It attracts,
Everyone needs a good bit of flocculation.
it attracts a lot of the nasties in the treated water, in the raw water going through being treated. And that stops a lot of them getting into our drinking water. However, there's going to be a little bit of aluminium, I feel, going into
Mm,
our drinking water anyway. And what you don't need in your body when you're fluoridated is aluminium
right.
because it makes an unholy alliance. And if you've got a compromised blood-brain barrier, it gets into your brain and you
And then
get
that heavy metals like that will cause dementia and all sorts of other
exactly
issues.
it's Alzheimer's, yes.
Yeah.
So everybody who's fluoridated would do well to avoid aluminium as well as fluoride.
I mean, the whole bonkers thing is that we're slowly waking up to know that artificial foods and pesticides and all this stuff that's sprayed on these foods, which eventually get into the water table and all these things, are just not good for us. Why on earth, in a rational world, and we know we're not in a rational world, would you want to put these extra things into what we loosely call drinking water and allow people to do it, to drink it rather?
Yes, well, we're all told, aren't we? If you're pregnant, you need to drink more water because your blood volume increases. So pregnant ladies are not told to avoid tap water. They're not told to avoid tea leaves because that contains fluoride as well. And
Oh yes, I remember you saying.
the two combined, 4 mugs a day will take you very close to 6 milligrams of fluoride, um, which basically is what the World Health Organization says you shouldn't go over or you shouldn't approach. But I suspect there are quite a few people in the Northeast who like their cup of Rosie Lee,
Yes.
who are pregnant, who don't know about that.
No.
And the NHS says it's fine. And don't drink bottled water because it's got too much sodium and sulfates in it. But that is completely untrue. If you look
Right.
at the labels, it really is obvious. But you obviously have to spend time looking at the water quality reports from the water treatment works from the water companies, um, and then look at the labels on the back of a bottle of water. And you'll see that in many cases, there's more sodium and sulfate in tap water than there is in bottled water. So we don't have contaminants in bottled water either because it's strictly controlled by a set of laws. So yeah, it's really bad news. So instead of having um, tap water, well, you can't avoid it. It comes out the tap. So
Mm.
you obviously will distill it, or you'll put it through a filter, or you buy some sort of very good, very expensive whole house filtration system to get it out of everything. And that's expensive. So why should you pay for your medicinal water, because that's what it is, when you've got to also spend money taking the fluoride out of the water when it comes out the tap?
Absolutely. So, I mean, people do challenge, and I've done this on the show, and as a result of you coming on last time, people were saying, "Well, I've challenged my water treatment company and said I'm not prepared to pay for this stuff unless you can guarantee it is just pure water, because that's what I thought I was buying from you, and we don't really have any other option. I mean, they've taken away the wells and things like that. We don't have any options other than lots of bottled water, which isn't cheap, of course,
Yeah.
unless you happen to have a spring nearby, like at Buxton, and we were in Buxton, but it's a long way to go just to get your water, isn't it? I mean, it is a ridiculously difficult situation for people. And then, as you say, this is going to roll out across the country. Certainly 40%, did you say just now?
Yes, if we lose the public consultation for the Northeast, then the next place will be Nottinghamshire and Nottingham, and then Leicester City.
And if it's been proved, has it not, that the fluoride actually isn't as good for the teeth as they make out, that it actually makes your teeth fall out?
Well, it gives you dental fluorosis, that's for sure. But that's okay. The government thinks that's just commercial. It's not a problem, but it does destroy teeth. Of course it does. It's going to be affecting the strength of the dentine, and if the dentine's not strong, then the enamel will start to give way.
Right.
Um, but yeah, the most recent government paid for research, 2022 and 2023, showed that between 2 and 4% improvement. In other words, fluoridated children showed 2% less dental decay than non-fluoridated children.
I mean, it seems to me that if you didn't give them too many sweet things,
Mm.
I mean, you look at lots of this other research where they looked at skulls from say 400 years ago who weren't eating sugar. Their teeth are all straight; they're not crooked. They've had them, and I'm just trying to remember the doctor who was over in somewhere like Norway or somewhere, and their teeth were all green. They didn't clean them, but there was no rotting
Mm.
whatsoever because they just didn't eat a Western diet with all the sugary nonsense that we have in. we don't need to have the fluoride in to protect children if we were able to get them off all the confectionery and the sugars and all the nasties that are in food anyway.
Hmm. But certain teeth are weak anyway because they've got thin enamel, so they're going to get decayed more easily. But they are lumped in with the decay um, detected when they do the dental examinations at age 5. And
Right.
in that, say, for example, we found that Ladywood in Birmingham in 2019, the children examined had, of the children examined, 50% had dental decay, and
Gosh.
they're fluoridated.
Yes. Yes. It's not a good thing at all.
Hmm. Um,
And they put it in toothpaste as well. It's very hard to find a toothpaste that doesn't have that. You know, people are probably. I mean, there are recipes online to make your own toothpaste, so you don't have to buy all the commercial stuff all the time. And I think there are a couple of fluoride-free toothpastes, but you know, they're not prominently on the shelf on the supermarkets.
Not on the shelf, but obviously, the more we buy stuff off the internet, the more we find which is suitable. I use aloe vera, and I haven't used fluoridated toothpaste for 15 years. Uh, so,
So yeah, so that's. But the main problem is that this is. I mean, as you say, in this consultation, the leakage, if you like, from one county to another. So people who think, oh well, I'm all right, Jack, we haven't got to worry about this, may actually be quite happily brushing their teeth, drinking, imbibing, having a tea, and finding that they've actually got fluoride in there, unless they're stringently doing the whole osmosis thing of
yeah.
dealing with the water at their end.
Yeah. I think I need to return us to the consultation
Mm,
because it's rather like, everything's hidden. It's supposed to have been noticed by 1.6 million people. It's an open consultation. The world and his wife can take part in it, but only one paper carried it. And also, what is so, so bad, all right, so 1.6 million people don't know about it, or perhaps a few thousand, shall we say. Let's not exaggerate too much. But when it comes to the NHS staff in the area, the Department of Health sent an email to the NHS. The NHS is very much in favour of fluoridation, so they will have cascaded the information through the intranet,
mm.
all the staff. And no doubt they will have said, okay, here's a consultation document, have a look at it. We really do hope you take part in the consultation and that you'll find possibly in favour of fluoridation. So we're talking about quite a few thousand staff
Yes.
in
And
the
and as
area.
you say, they'll be brainwashed into believing that it's good because that's the messaging that they're
Mhm.
giving.
So you can see it's not a level playing field already. There's a certain number of people that the DHSC know about it,
Mm.
but I can't tell you how many people in the Northeast know about it. I've talked to a few people in the villages south of the border, and none of them knew. Well, why would they? Because they're in Yorkshire, they're not in the Northeast.
Right.
And that
So
and they didn't see
I'm
it. They didn't see any notice of it at all. So they can't possibly be expected to respond.
and in general, do you think that most people have an idea that fluoride is no longer a good thing? What would be the general consensus of people to fluoride?
Yes, I mean, as I said about the Daily Telegraph articles, how the majority of the comments were against. We've been
Mm.
collating these throughout the decades. And a sad case, really, when you think about it. Um,
We're all doing what we've got to do, though.
but every single newspaper poll, an official poll, every single radio unofficial poll has shown a majority against fluoridation. When you
And
go to
and
the
yet we've
Murray,
still got to have it.
when you go to the Murray polls, there's a percentage in favor of fluoridation because they ask a loaded question.
Right.
You know, if you knew that fluoride reduced dental decay, would you be in favor?
Yes, you'd be. Well, of course,
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Of course, we don't want that, and it has no health risks or
Oh
anything
no, no, it's
else.
safe and effective.
I had fluoride and my tooth fell out. Um, it's it. So what? I mean, this is your area of expertise. What do you suppose we can do I mean, we've obviously got to push back. We've got to make people aware of this, and coming on shows like this helps, obviously. But there, what other factors can we do? I know last time you were sort of saying, well, talk to your water treatment centre, and because presumably the more people that get in touch with them and say, I'm happy to pay for the water unless you put fluoride in it,
That's
and
fine,
have
yes. No, no, don't pay for drinking water because it's not drinking water, it's medicinal water. And therefore, we're not protected by the Drinking Water Directive, which has been retained post-Brexit. You cannot have guidelines for something which is not drinking water and medicinal water. We're not, if we were poisoned, we wouldn't have any redress at all because it's not drinking water. I think the drinking water inspectorate would probably and and say, well, the case isn't proven that you were poisoned by the water. So basically, we'll investigate it, but we never will do because they damn well know that it's not drinking water, so they don't have any responsibility, although they pretend that they do.
right. So are you saying that the water is technically classed as medicinal water?
Technically, but not politically.
Right. But if you were to go to your water treatment and say, can you tell me, is this medicinal water you're supplying me or drinking water? What would be the response that, if they were honest, that they would say?
I think they'd have a hissy fit if they admitted that it was medicinal water, because
Right.
that means they would be violating their license to supply drinking water.
Right. But if they were proved to be providing medicinal water, then and claiming it's drinking water, I mean that would also be fraud, wouldn't it?
Yes, it's product substitution as well, although that sort of law doesn't actually apply to water because that's under a different draft of legislation. If
It
we
would
were to
be.
stop the drinking water companies from adding fluoride, we have to take somebody to court. We have to
Right.
challenge, and we have quite a bit of law on our side now. But until it's tested in a court of law by a judge, we can do nothing. So our
Right.
plans are to start legal action.
Yes. And get as much publicity on the side of that as possible, presumably.
Yeah, as much as we can, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So these poor people in just south of the Yorkshire border, they're going to get it without any idea that they're drinking it.
That's right. In fact, their MP hasn't told them, and the MP has been told by the
And he's
Department of Health.
yes. The MPs don't necessarily seem to be working in our favour. I can't quite work out why in a democratic world, but there must be something going on there. Not quite sure. And it's interesting that did you say Richmond is just outside the area, and a certain important, so-called important person lives near there?
Yes, indeed. In fact, he lives just south of the area which could be fluoridated. Yeah,
Just outside.
yeah,
A
in his
certain
mansion.
Mr. Sunak, I believe his name is.
I believe so, yes.
Yes, although did say to this to you before we start, he probably doesn't touch any of the tap water, knowing that there might be a problem. He's probably got his own personal borehole. He's probably got enough money to do that, I would imagine.
Well, if he lives in a mansion, then probably he does have his own well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So now I've got a graphic here that you sent me, which we can show with lots of information. Here we go. To respond to the North East of England water fluoridation public consultation. How long have they got?
Until the 17th of June.
Right. So we still got all of May, but that's no excuse not to do
No,
anything.
and there's two bank holidays in May. So
Yes, that's
people are
true.
going on holiday. In fact, I forgot to mention the 25th of March was the Monday before Easter holidays. So families would have been busy getting ready to go on holiday and probably
Yes.
wouldn't have had time to even see the Northern Echo online article.
And let's face it. I mean, I'll come back to that graphic in a second. A lot of people, when it comes to these sort of technical things or things like this, unless there's a headline grabbing thing to say, we're shoving this in your water, so be careful,
Mm,
most people would probably it would glaze over, wouldn't it?
yeah.
But, because we've lost so much of the communications to our towns and villages that we used to have with radio stations doing their own little bits of journalism and proper newspapers that did their proper
Yeah.
bit of journalism. It's all now, you've got these big conglomerate corporate radio stations, and they're not interested in challenging those sort of things,
If you look
which
at
is a real
the,
shame.
yeah, if you look at the villages, what sort of social life do they have between them? I mean, do they interact? Perhaps they play cricket. I mean, Stokesley is one of the villages I'm really concerned about. It's a real live wire village. Its main pub makes its own beer, which will be obviously using fluoridated tap
Fluoride,
water.
yeah.
It's got several cricket and football clubs, and they, fluoride
So
takes
out
the
comes the
edge.
tea. Out comes the
Oh
tea
yes,
at
indeed.
in the
Yes,
cricket.
exactly. But no, at a cellular level, fluoride takes the edge off your energy levels. So, you think, well, a football team in the first division would
Mm,
be possibly not in the first division next year because they've become less energetic.
right. Oh, I didn't realise. So it affects your energy levels.
It has to do because fluoride gets into every cell and gets into the mitochondria, which produces energy. I mean, we're talking about a tiny amount here for each
Mm,
cell. So that the sum total would be the body becomes less vital.
yes. Yes, and what with the things they're spraying in the sky and all the other things, it's all keeps damping us right down.
Well, if they are spraying aluminium, nano particles of aluminium, and we've got fluoride in our bodies, then of course, aluminium fluoride is such a bad thing to have going into the brain.
Yes, yes, as we just discussed. I mean, so what we need, I mean, we need some sort of campaign, don't we? A sort of a new beer that comes onto the market, or a new tea that's sort of, you know, just add water and drop dead type thing, or something that could capture the imagination of people to bring people's attention to it. I mean, I'm thinking on my feet, which is probably not the best way of doing it. But because water is, we use water for everything. We're watering the garden, we're watering the plants that we're going to eat, we're watering, as you said, we're making beer with it, tea with it, coffee, everything. And of course, some people will actually drink it out of the tap anyway. Do the filters take the fluoride out successfully?
Yes, reverse osmosis does definitely until the filters get old and when you have to change them. That's not cheap. Each
Mm,
pair of filters and the membrane itself, about £80 every 6 months.
right.
Distillation is less expensive in filters because you only need a little sort of a tea bag sort of thing to stick in the spout to polish off the water. That's not expensive, but when it comes to the electricity, yes, it could be expensive over the year.
And
Um,
you can't take it out with I'm just trying to remember the name of the some chlorine thing that they don't like you to know about that it cleans up rivers so that you can drink it turns it into drinking water, or it kills all the bugs. But fluoride isn't a bug, so
that's correct. No,
it's
chlorine won't do it. The other one is a really efficient filter jug, and there are not too many on the market. The most recent one is called Zero Filter. I have analyzed its product water, and it does work. And yes, I'm very pleased with it. Completely pleased with it. There's about 10 to 15 different models in that range. They go from about £30 upwards.
right.
But the
Yeah.
filters are very expensive.
And I mean, it's a rigmarole doing it. We use a filter. I'm not going to say which one it is in case it's one that's useless. I shall feel a complete prune. Um, but I was advised it was about 80 quid, so I'm hoping it works. But then people use, the cost of something doesn't necessarily mean it's effective. It just means you fell for the hype.
Exactly, yes,
That
especially a
is the
lot
problem.
of filter jugs are rubbish. Oh dear.
So yeah.
You tell me about it afterwards. What's
I'll
it
tell you
called?
about it afterwards. You can check it out. I know you've got a list of some of the villages there. Did you want to read some of the names of the
Oh
villages just in
yes.
case it?
I do hope somebody is listening in those villages because it's really difficult to get hold of people. I've tried a few people in Stokesley, especially the community library, and they were very, very welcoming and very shocked. So here we
Yes.
go. Right. These are in DL2, which is Darlington 2 postcode area, as Howden Hill, Lucy Cross, Merrybent, Piercebridge, I think that's on the border. Gainford, Winston, Croft-on-Tees, Dalton-on-Tees, Sockburn, Lower Dinsdale. DL10 is, sorry, DL11 is Caldwell. DL10 is Middleton Tyres. They're only half the village. The northern part,
Only half the
yes, the northern bit would have
flick a coin. Tails, you're in it. Oh,
Hamlerby.
move across the road.
Hang on, going down the DLs. Right, those are the DLs. And then we've got the TSs. TS is Teesside. And I'll just go through it now without filtering them out. High Worsall, Picton, Craythorne, Kirk Levington, Low Leven, Middleton on Leven, Hutton Rudby, Sexhow, Maltby, Seamer, Coolby Newham, Martin in Cleveland, Tollesby, Northombsby, I can't pronounce that, North Ormsby, that's better, and Stokesley.
For a moment there, I thought I tuned into the, the old weather thing where they do and here is the regional weather.
Yeah,
But some of those villages are just lovely sounding names, aren't they?
yes,
I mean,
indeed.
it's poetry just reading out some of these names. Um, but of course, it's a very serious thing. And so, if anybody knows anybody in that, it would be great if you could alert them because they may be part of a group, village group that they could put on their village notice board to say, by the way, we have something that we didn't know about.
Right, so what I'll do is I'll put that list up on the NEWFC website so that people can see it and be
And
shocked, as it were.
this is your website, isn't it?
I've got two websites. The UK FFA is the national one,
Is
but
that this
if
one
you
here?
scroll down that page you're looking at now, you'll see the NEWFC. You've gone down too far.
Oh,
Go,
it's typical.
don't worry about it. Go up a bit.
Up a bit, left a bit.
Oh, never mind. It's there somewhere. It's the NEWFC.org. There you go.
Oh, there it is. There we go.
.org.uk website, which we set up specially for the Northeast water fluoridation concerns. That's why it sounds like it does, because it's very catchy, and you shouldn't
Right.
be able to forget that because it sounds like a football club.
Oh, yes. newfc.org.uk.
Yeah, yeah,
So people have still got time to go back and I mean, whether anybody actually reads the results of these consultations is another thing. And they just want to railroad these things
yeah,
across, regardless of what people say.
yeah.
But at least people have the chance. I'll put the links on the website, of course, so people can go and look at that.
So the little
Um,
bad thing about this public consultation is that it's the fox guarding the henhouse. Although it seems as though an organization called Social Optic is involved with processing the replies. They are just collecting. They're just basically a repository for all the responses. And then when on the 17th of June comes along, they will just push everything across to the Department of Health, who will mark their own homework.
yes, I mean, I often wonder with these public consultations whether they collect the emails of people and go, "You're a dissenter. You're a dissenter. We know who you are now." Because these days it's so easy with that data just to keep it on the side.
Mhm.
For those people, oh yeah, troublemaker, troublemaker, troublemaker. But unless people push back in some way or another, they're going to. I mean, they may do it anyway, as you say. What I'll put let me just put that up there again so people can see, and I'll copy those across onto the description thing. What other areas, Joy, have already got fluoride in the water that people can go back to their treatment centre and complain about it?
Right, okay. Um, let me see. Starting at the north, it's a lot of Northumberland, Consett on Derwent's side in County Durham, North Townside. I'll try again. North Tyneside, Gateshead. And then we go down the country, a little bit of Lincolnshire, a little bit of Nottinghamshire, a little bit of Leicestershire, only a tiny bit, a little bit of Derbyshire, across to Cheshire, Nantwich, up to West Cumbria. That's the area where you have Sellafield.
Oh, right.
Um,
You imagine a bit of radiation in the water as well.
yeah, well, I mentioned Sellafield because we think perhaps it's a case of keeping the people quiet.
Yes.
Up as far as Maryport and places like that. Um, then we've got the whole of the West Midlands county, apart from Herefordshire. Uh,
Oh, right.
Even Stratford-on-Avon is fluoridated.
Gosh.
So that's Warwickshire, North Warwickshire, and South Warwickshire. Um, Bedfordshire's a little bit of Bedfordshire, Central Bedfordshire, which is fluoridated. And that's about it. And if I've forgotten anybody, I apologise.
So the south down on the southeast and southwest, we're
Good
sort of
grief,
clear.
no. Good grief, no. They're the politicians, aren't they, who go into
I mean,
parliaments?
good grief, couldn't possibly fluoride those poor people.
Oh, no. However, there's natural fluoride in Essex water.
A natural
That's
fluoride is all right.
Essex fluoride. No, it's not really.
Oh, isn't it?
No, no, but it's not as bad as
It's not as bad as the other
hydrofluoric
one.
acid.
Oh gosh, right, okay. So I mean, you don't want any kind of fluoride
No, no,
in
no.
it at all.
The tragedy is that the whole of Southern Ireland, the Republic, is fluoridated mandatorily. In other words, there's no escape.
There's no escape. Bloody hell. This is. I mean, it's it's like all these things: the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the water. It's just a slow death.
Yeah. And the one biggest scandal of all, and I'm not quite sure if I told you about this, there's a law which says you cannot add hydrofluorosilicic acid to drinking to food. Can I try that again?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Hydro.
No, 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 no. There is a law that says you cannot add hydrofluorosilicic acid to manufactured food. Now that's a EU retained law, which has obviously been mandated in this country. But nobody knows about it because hydrofluorosilicic acid is not mentioned in the law. It's a list of things which are permitted, so it doesn't have a negative side. But they
Right.
allow sodium fluoride and potassium fluoride to be added to child's milk in school, if you want to opt for that, or for fluoridated salt, which is all right.
Nice.
I know, it's crazy, but really crazy.
Could I have some fluoride on my chips, please?
We don't sell it in this country.
I think
We don't
God for
because
that.
it's in Germany and in France in the main, and it's on the bottom shelf of the supermarkets.
Right. So if you're in Germany, going on German, and you want to try a German sausage, and you're looking at the salt pot, avoid it.
I'd say it's a very small market share, but it's allowed.
Right. Yeah. Take your own Celtic sea salt with you.
And there's just one area in England which allows gentle milk to be given to children in schools and nurseries, and that's Blackpool.
Oh my goodness. Dental milk.
Yeah, the parents have agreed. So in any classroom, half the children will be getting dental milk and half will be getting bog standard, pasteurized,
Yes.
semi-skimmed milk. But at least that's better for them than the fluoridated stuff.
Yes. Don't drink you didn't say on that side of the country, did you? So Blackpool doesn't have it in the water.
No, it doesn't. But
So
they had bad dental care, so they think the kids should have fluoride in their milk.
right.
That's
Blimey.
counterintuitive if you think about it, because there's calcium in the milk, which should combine with the fluoride and stop it being bioavailable elsewhere. But I'm told that the calcium in milk is not the same sort of calcium as we have in calcium fluoride.
Right.
I'm not a very experienced chemist in that respect.
Well,
So
I've just
it's just horrible to think that the kids have been told that it's good for them.
Yes, I've just come back from Dora's Dairy in Wiltshire, milking cows, and on a raw milk farm, of which the raw milk it has none of that nonsense, and even if they're washing stuff out with the water, there won't even. So now you've told me there's not even any residue of that. So maybe the kids in Blackpool can enjoy some raw milk, which would be far better for them.
Uh-huh.
Full of good bacteria.
Okay, we missed that bit. I'm sorry about the phone ringing. I had to take it off the hook.
Oh, just don't worry.
Tell me about Dora's diary again.
Yes, so I was just saying that in Dora, I've been milking, and it's a raw milk farm, and they're the only. This is ridiculous, really. They're the only raw milk supplier in Wiltshire, which is a big county. And I was saying that the kids in Blackpool might be better to have raw milk if they can find a raw milk supplier near them than drinking the water or what sounds god awful dental milk. I mean, how dim do you have to be to think I'm going to feed my children dental milk? Get some dental milk today.
It's in a lovely, pretty carton with a smiling cow on it.
Oh yes. Wash your teeth away with dental milk today.
Very good. I like that
There you go. Oh, blimey. So, I mean, sometimes we just have to poke fun at these things and do these sort of memes and things to sort of get the message across somehow.
one.
Because people just are so blinkered on trying to make a living, bring up their kids, going to work, all this sort of stuff that's been manufactured for us all. And they're just picking up these things, as you say, smiling cow, it's got to be okay. But it's just trying to get people to think twice and not think, oh, you're just conspiracy theorists.
I don't mind being a conspiracy theorist because I know my conspiracy is correct.
Yes.
It
Well,
shows a certain amount of logical thinking when you question things.
absolutely. Yeah. Don't just accept what you're told. You do your own critical thinking.
Mhm.
So that's the picture. If things change, will you come back and let us know
I'd love
how
to.
did? Yeah. I mean, it would be nice to have you back on in a few months' time, just saying all fluoride is gone. Doesn't sound like that's going to be the case,
No, I think
but
possibly the only thing that's going to happen that's good in the next few weeks is the American judge decision. If he finds against fluoride in the environment in America, that will gradually percolate across to England and hopefully to Ireland. There's a Judge Edward Chen has been ruminating on the evidence for the past 4 weeks. I don't know how long he's going to take him to make his final decision.
right.
Brilliant if he does come out with a good decision in our favour.
Let's have our fingers crossed. Let's hope he's one of the few judges that's actually on our side or has a bit of common sense. Um,
He's been very good, very considerative, very patient, and we think a lot of him.
oh, right.
Don't know, we
Okay.
just don't know which way he's going to go.
And in America, we do have American viewers. How fluorided are they?
72% of North America is fluoridated or has
Gosh.
natural fluoride in their drinking water.
And are they protesting in large numbers against it?
We
Yeah.
believe so, but you see, there's a clampdown on media news, but it's gradually percolating through. I've been told about 100 communities, smaller communities, have told their water utilities we don't want it anymore. Because in
Right.
America, it's not mandated. It's just a gentleman's agreement between the local city hall and the water utility.
Right. Oh well, let's hope that they cause a big enough stink, as it were, and because what happens in America seems to filter across here.
Yes, indeed. So as soon as they know about the about fluoride being declared, if you like, as being a known developmental neurotoxin, so many towns and villages and cities will start telling their water utilities, stop it. I want my child to have 100% of its intelligence, not reduced, because
Yes.
I've been drinking fluoridated water when I was pregnant. When that
Yeah.
happens, the I think the top will be blown off the media clampdown, and we'll see.
Do you-
We'll see.
I
That will
think there's
soon
so
this, we
much.
hope.
I mean, I've got good feelings for this year for lots of stuff being revealed.
Oh,
I mean, every day there's a new revelation about something that's happening, and on the face of it, a lot of these things do seem scary, and of course they are. But people are there's so many different things that are making people aware of a greater harm, if you like. And if it's just people just know about fluoride in their water and they may not know about agendas and all those sort of things, but if they know that and they think, well, would a government that's supposed to be looking after us put stuff in that is detrimental to us? If it starts the ball rolling for a lot of people, then that's great.
It is. Yep, indeed. And I've just
So,
I've just refused to go to my doctor's surgery to get my COVID vaccination.
oh, good for you. Good for you. There will be a cheer going up. I can hear it from the audience. Are you
Okay.
still being told to go and get it?
Yes, because I'm a certain age.
Oh yes.
I'm vulnerable. The fact that they've completely forgotten I haven't had one at all. So
Oh, brilliant. Well, good for you. Thank you, Joy, for coming on and telling us all about that. I'll put all the links in the description. Last time, I had a few emails from people who'd sent me the letters that they were sending to their water treatment people, questioning stuff. I dare say people will do that. People are getting very much on board with penning letters and sending out emails and questioning what's going on. I think we need to have more of that so that these companies realise they're not dealing with just people who are not going to respond, but we are actually doing something about it. And there's a lot of people who are sitting up and taking notice.
yes, indeed they are. And perhaps I'm guilty of encouraging them. As I say, I don't pay my drinking water charges. I just pay for sewerage. And on the UK FFA website, we have got the method on how to stop paying for medicinal water. But you shouldn't do that if you're getting drinking water, only if you're fluoridated, because you
Right.
stand no chance in court of law if you were taken to a court of law if you're not fluoridated.
Right. So all those areas that you mentioned just now, they've got that opportunity. Go and check the website, see how Joy has worked it all out, and push back. Because the more cases, if it did go to court, the more cases coming into the court. Not another bloody fluoridated water thing. It puts pressure on them, doesn't it?
They're losing money because of it, of course. Not very
Absolutely.
much at the moment, but it's still a pressure on them. And the chief executive officers of these water companies do need to know that people don't appreciate having medicinal water
No.
when they thought all these decades they were getting drinking water.
And do you think people can write, if you can find the name of the managing director or the CEO and all of that and say, look, I'm taking you personally responsible. You are liable for this. It's not just the company, which is, nothing. Making people liable for anything that if my teeth fall out as a result of having your medicinal water, you're the ones responsible, mate.
They are responsible, but they all hide behind the fact that they have to do it because the government and the law has tied them into doing it.
So they could push back. I mean, they could push back against the law, these companies, and say, look, our customers in large numbers are refusing to pay. We push it back up to the idiots making the decision to force them to do it.
And perhaps they're worried about retaining their license to supply. I don't know how they can be losing their license if they
Who else would supply it? Some bloke with a hose. Oh, sorry, I'll get it.
yeah.
I've got a stirrup pump on a hose. I'll supply you with some fresh water out my greenhouse.
Tell you what, why not nationalize the water companies?
No,
Which is what's going to happen to Thames Water, I think.
is it? Yeah. Anyway, let's not go down all at the front.
Don't go
But
down that rabbit hole because obviously if they're nationalized, then fluoridation would continue because the government's in favor.
yeah, that's
Well,
it.
the other shocking thing, of course, is that it's government policy to fluoridate, but it's not in any manifesto, as far as I can see, over the decades. So,
So actually, as we approach any elections with the government coming up, we could definitely ask them: Are you going to fluoridate? Are you going to fluoridate? Is that right? Fluoridate.
fluoridate, yes, that's fine.
Fluoridate. Are you? I'm getting tongue twisted now. Are you going to? But people can ask these sort of questions of their MPs and hold them to it.
Yes,
Are
I
you
have.
going to do this?
I have, and it didn't work because my MP is, or used to be, a pharmacological oncologist.
Right.
A
That's a mouth.
cancer chemist.
Okay. Yeah.
Believes
Thank
in
you.
fluoride because she uses it or used it in her medicines,
Oh, right.
in her drugs.
What you loosely call medicines. Uh,
Yeah. So I
yeah.
didn't get anywhere with that.
No, but it's. I mean, every door to push on is definitely worth pushing.
Just please tell me how many drawers you can think of, and I will push them.
Push them, absolutely. Joy, it's been a joy to have you on the show. Thank you so much for telling us about that and giving us a warning and alerting those people who are in those sort of areas, but also just the general picture to push back. And if you've got a cow smiling at you on a bottle for your kids, just see if it's dental milk or not, because it may contain something you'd rather the kids didn't have. Thank you so much. I'll put all the links in the description. So there we go. I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. Just check the water that you're drinking. But in the meantime, from Joy and I, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.